You want more money in the bank, more money in your wallet, less stress, better life perhaps? Stick around this first hour. You're going to find this interesting. You know, a lot of us New Year's resolutions are thrown out. How often do they really last? But with a lot of us, what we want to do is we want to have more financial security. That's one of the things that I think that when we're growing up, that's the one thing that we want. Well, we have on the show this morning, this evening, local financial professional Larry Kallevig from Haven Financial Group, and he's going to tell us how we can do this, and we'll also take your calls if you would like to jump in. And Larry, welcome to CCO. Appreciate you coming on at a late hour like this.
Thanks for having me, Al. Good evening.
You know, years ago, I interviewed an author who wrote a book called The Wealthy Barber. His name is David Chilton. And it was a very common sense book. The story was all about this barber who was worth millions of dollars, and people would go and get their hair cut from this guy. And while he was clipping their hair, they'd ask him for financial advice. So they were getting a financial advisor for the cost of a haircut. And one of the things that he kept on saying in this book is pay yourself first. And those are words that I've lived by for decades now. And one of the ways you pay yourself first is, of course, the 401k, where your money is taken out pre-tax, and so it's going in to your account. There are so many different ways to do this. Do you agree with that, or is that just oversimplifying it?
Well, I 100% agree, and good for you for doing that, because that's not exactly the rule today, as saving becomes more and more difficult. But you're right. The old failure to plan is a plan to failure, and much like getting physically fit, it takes some of the same exercises that can be very difficult for people, like you just said. Paying yourself first, taking advantage of contributions, IRAs, matches, and all that stuff. If you don't pack your gym bag, you're probably not going to the gym.
Exactly. Yeah. So plan in advance, right?
Exactly.
Get that bag
Don't
together.
Wait until the last minute to start planning for retirement. It probably won't bode well.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of magical words that I think are important, and that's compound interest. And that's something that we don't hear a lot of. Once again, we don't hear a lot of that these days. But when you look at simple compound interest, if you sock some money away every single month, how quickly that money will accrue. And I pulled this book out, and then, again, this is probably from 25, 30 years ago. And I had written down some calculations, and I wrote down, I calculated $200 per month if you could sock that away at 10%, and I just rounded it off at that time. At 10% for 25 years, at that point, at 25 years, you will have $265,366.72. Staggering amount of money.
Correct.
But
in fact,
it gives you
somewhere. Yes.
Yeah. Start with $50. Start with 25. So for all of us that made those New Year's resolutions, who have never done it before, what advice can you give us?
Well, you said it well. Start somewhere. It just doesn't. You don't just address something overnight. It takes time. It takes diligence. Build a routine. Those that I've seen that have prospered the most in this area, like you're discussing, have developed a routine just like in their gym habits or becoming physically fit, creating a budget. You hear about it, but yet most don't have a budget. If you don't, I encourage it. You can go to my website for a worksheet. Stick to your budget if you have one. Fine-tune it. And like you said, just start putting away something. Small, medium. You got to start somewhere to get somewhere, whether it's, maybe it's the morning Java trips to the coffee shop or packing a couple lunches a week. Over time, with discipline and consistency, I'll tell you what, that's how what I see with our clients that have succeeded in putting away a nest egg.
And you won't even notice that you're not getting that money.
Out of sight, out of mind.
It exactly. And if you've got a company that offers a 401k that matches, it's free money. And if you can put the max in, is that advisable to put the maximum amount in that you can put in?
If it's part of your budget, certainly work your way up to that 10 to 15% contribution of your annual income. But start somewhere. In fact, the recent study of the younger generation, if you will, a lot of them don't even know that their employer offers 401k employer-sponsored plans, which is sad. Wow. Like you said, matching, that's free money. You can't afford not to. Most of the younger would say they can't afford to put away. Well, my opinion is they can't afford not to put it away.
Over the years, I've had listeners that have called and they've asked the question. I need every penny that I get every month. How could I possibly put $50 away or $100 away? I need that money. What recommendations? What can we do to cut back on our spending? In today's society, especially in comparison to 30 years ago. Just look at your satellite or cable bill or your smartphone bill. Where do you recommend that we start to cinching up the budget belt?
Well, first of all, having that budget, because there's a big percentage out there that doesn't even know what money comes in and what money goes out. If you don't know where it's coming from and what's going out, then how are you going to pinpoint what things you can cut out? That's why I think the budget part, even though it rings in our ears when people tell us, many don't have that. When you understand that, then you can identify the sore spots, if you will, or maybe the bad debt or high interest debt, which those that are preparing for retirement or even those that aren't, to burn off that fat. Fat holds us back, just like debt does in our finances, paying off those high interest things. Once you can build and work that part out, it's equally as important as savings. And again, that's where a budget comes in so handy because you can work backwards.
Larry, are you open to phone calls from the audience?
Most definitely.
All right, our phone number is 651-989-9226, toll free, 866-989-9226. Larry Kallevig is our guest, by the way, and he is a financial professional with Haven Financial Group. And when my wife and I sat down decades ago, we've been married 46 years now, and when we sat down and started going through the budget, we were asking the question, is this a want or is this a need? And it was interesting when you put it in those terms. Is it a want or is it a need? And we decided that sometimes it's okay to have a want. Not all the time, but it's okay to have a want. But I think that perhaps, maybe I'm wrong, is that perhaps the most difficult step to figure out what you're going to cut out of your budget?
Very well said. Want and a need. There's a common denominator, and again, we work a lot with those that are close to retirement or in retirement. So this is an everyday conversation that I have, and the common denominator with those that have prepared well is delayed gratification, identifying wants and needs, waiting, whereas, again, lots have changed, but today it's the concept, well, if I want it, I'll get it, whether I need it or not. That's not delayed gratification. So the common denominator is, for those that I see that have done well in saving for retirement, is they've waited, they've been very disciplined, sometimes frugal, but sometimes that's what it takes.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with being frugal. If you look at Jack Benny, and the younger audience probably doesn't know who Jack Benny was, but he was an actor and a comedian, and part of his shtick was he was a tightwad. And one of the funny bits in early radio when he was doing the Jack Benny show, a robber on the streets says, "Give me your money." And there's this long pause. And the guy says, "Well?" And Jack Benny goes, I'm thinking. Because he had a choice between his money and his life. We've made fun of people who are frugal. But I'll tell you, if you want to grow your wealth slowly, what you're recommending is great. And one of the things that you write that I really do like, after your first trip to the gym, you won't see big changes. You also won't see big changes after 1 week of saving money. This is a slow process, and it does take a long time. And don't jump off that wagon once you get on there, because you are going to gain that wealth, and it does take time. And you're going to go through the valleys and the peaks and the valleys as the markets go up and down. We're going to go to the phone here. Let's do that, and then we're going to get back to the ups and downs. Skip in St. Louis Park. You're on with Larry Kallevig.
Yeah, Mr. Larry, I got a cousin of mine that they have to do bankruptcy, and he asked me a question: are SEP accounts protected in bankruptcy court? I don't know if you know that question or not. I said I think they are, but I'd rather talk to an expert and get some advice. I'll hang up.
What I'm sorry, Skip. I didn't understand it either. He said he was asking if something was protected. Did you happen to hear that, Jonathan? What he was asking was protected under bankruptcy?
Our SEP IRA accounts protected in bankruptcy.
Okay.
And I'll, of course, take the easy route and defer that to a lawyer, but there are some things that are protected in bankruptcy, but I don't want to go out on a limb for something on the legal side of things because I can't give legal advice. But certainly there are things I don't know specifically. I can't answer that.
Larry, what is more important when you're looking at mutual funds, for example? What's more important, the fund or the manager?
Well, there's a lot of hype out there, especially with funds, whether it be mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, or other types of funds, that the annual return that I have or this and that gets this. All of those are variables. Return on investments, all of those things are important. As Tony Robbins says, fees do matter as well. Of course, coming off a year like last year, where the majority of the population with the index of the S&P being up 21+%, who's not going to be happy?
Yeah.
But there's all different pieces to the puzzle. They're all important. But money managers, as it relates to mutual funds or exchange-traded funds, certainly the majority of money managers don't outperform the index. So we can get into a variety of different debates of what's most important and what's not.
Larry, we're going to take a break. Can you hang on with us?
Most definitely. Thanks, Al.
Great. Our phone number is 651-989-9226, toll free, 866-989-9226. Larry Kallevig is our guest. He is a financial professional from Haven Financial Group. This is CCO. Our guest is financial professional Larry Kallevig from Haven Financial Group. You had mentioned the website, Larry. If you could tell us what that website is so we can jot that down while we're talking here.
Yes, havenfinancialgroup.com, and I do have a budget worksheet for those that have not done a budget as of yet.
Very good. And, and putting it down on paper, that as you can see it, that really helps, doesn't it?
Most definitely. And as elementary as that may sound, a big percentage still have never done it.
Yeah, and it's a head scratcher, isn't it?
It really is, but when you've done this as long as and if you've been in business, it's not surprising, nor is it fun, because it can humble yourself to find out, wow, I didn't realize this was going there. And quite frankly, until you realize where that is going or where it's coming in from, it's hard to really pinpoint.
One of the things that you brought up in the last segment was, if you've got high interest debt, to get rid of those as quickly as possible. And once again, the one thing that I've always heard over the years when I've talked about it on the air, people say, I don't have any extra money to pay things off. How do those people do it? How do we do it?
Well, and they're probably not living within their means anyways, sad to say, because that's what got them potentially into it, unless there was some adverse situations or medical or something of that nature, of course, does happen. But paying down that high interest, many folks, especially that are in retirement, as many know, they're on a fixed income. Any debt that takes away from that monthly fixed income leaves obviously leaves a lot less to be desired after everything is paid. So the happiest people in retirement, according to many statistics, are those that have less debt. And one of the other statistics that is debatable is many in retirement that don't have a mortgage. So there's reasons for everything. But good debt, bad debt. Bad debt, of course, that high interest, that really can cause problems with the budget and income issues.
And if you can pay those off, get rid of those, then you can apply those funds to paying something else off. And the cycle continues before you're debt-free.
And then once you're there, then you can allocate those funds towards the savings, increased contributions on those matching 401ks, Roth 401ks, or outside contributions which all are important because over time value money, those add up significantly. And if I could add one, because it's an observation I've seen, is younger or older, I see, as Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, others would say, a lack of emergency fund or slush funds or savings funds. Good rule of thumb, 3 to 6 months of income on hand. I don't see very many people having that.
Right. But once again, if you're living on a budget where you're going month to month, it's hard to stockpile that money away. It takes an effort. It's hard to do. And it takes a lot of effort. But I'll tell you, you gotta keep the prize in focus, that light at the end of the tunnel, because when you do it, it sure feels good, doesn't it?
For those that I sit with that are at that latter part that you're talking about, it does feel good. And it makes them feel good because they ran the race and they're comfortable to the best of their ability in retirement. Now, as people head into this new year and we talk about these goals for being physically or financial, it does take discipline and consistency, and some of that's hard to come by for many people. I get it. If I can encourage patience, which doesn't come as easy for everybody, including me, be patient. It takes time, and like the health officials or professional would say, if you need help, get a trainer. I'm privileged to be a trainer for many of my clients as it relates to the investments, the financial, the tax, and all those other things. So if you're struggling, get somebody to help you.
That's a great way to put it. Let's go to Sarah in St. Paul. Hi, Sarah. You're on with Larry Kallevig.
Hi. My question is the interest on mutual funds taxable?
It depends upon what tax classification that investment is. Non-qualified Roth IRA or traditional IRA. Eventually, if there's gains on the non-qualified, that is going to be taxed. Non-qualified, of course, at the capital gains. Of course, IRA money, so that will be taxed at ordinary income rates, which, again, different topic. The tax changes, of course. Roth's never to be taxed again, so there's certainly positives to be had on the Roth side of things. So it depends about what type of investment it is from a tax perspective.
Okay, because I never get a 1099.
She was saying she never gets a 1099, Larry.
She never gets a 1099?
No. Right.
Right.
So then that means that so that must be retirement money. Eventually, as you withdraw that, it's not a Roth, then that will be taxed.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck. Thank you, Sarah. Our phone number is 651-989-9226, toll free, 866-989-9226. Larry, can we ask you to hold over again? More questions.
Most definitely.
All right, something I want you to chew on. The market, we hit over 25,000 points today. I remember when I was working at the Business Radio Network and the Dow hit 3,000. And the experts back then saying, well, this won't last. Get your money out of there. And here we've hit 25,000. What does that mean for those of us that have 401ks, IRAs, mutual funds, and the like? What do you recommend that we do? Larry Kallevig is our guest. He's a financial professional with Haven Financial Group. And again, we'll take your calls. It's 9:30 on CCO.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
9:35 Central Time on CCO. Our phone number, 651-989-9226. Also toll free across the country and Canada, everywhere that you possibly could live. 866-989-9226. Larry Kallevig is our guest. He is a financial professional from Haven Financial Group, and we're trying to figure out how we can keep those New Year's resolutions to get a budget in line and to grow wealth slowly. And I think, Larry, that those are the real magical words, aren't they? Grow wealth slowly. It works.
I would say you're 100% accurate. You don't become, unless you win the lottery, of course, you don't become a millionaire overnight. You don't become comfortably retired overnight. It's the slow and steady wins the race on the financial side of things. And as impatient as people can be, it's being diligent and being disciplined. And over the long run, that's where it goes.
Now, the market hit 25,000. Any advice? Is the financial market? Are you guys a little jittery about this? Is there concern? Can it prolong? Can it stay? Will it last? What are you guys sensing?
The ultimate question, approaching the longest 10-year bull market in record or in history. What goes up is, many would say, the cycle. Of course, there's lots of variables. Here's what I know what we do with our clients is we help people identify, stress test, their portfolios to the degree, where's your risk at? Where are you in the timeline of life? Are you still accumulating? Are you in the preservation stage of life? Are you drawing off these funds? What are your expenses? What will they be in retirement? Really honing in on those, like we talked about. What is your income sources? Is this legacy money? What type of money is this? Putting that all into a retirement analyzer, identifying all these areas, we can kind of see, are you comfortable with the down market losing 25%? If so, we can kind of see, okay, you're fine. But if you're not, what does the balance look like? So as history repeats itself potentially, we try to avoid the surprises where 10 years ago, 2008, 3 out of 5 seniors had to go back to work. That's just one aspect. So avoiding those situations that people get surprised, because surprises in the financial area can cause problems, especially with retirees.
I think everybody was hit by that and hurt by that. And there's also, I hate to even bring this up, but you have to be wary of the scammers, the big talkers. And there's one individual that I'm thinking of that's currently in prison. And I personally know a couple of people that really lost a lot of money because they bought into what he was saying. How do you determine what's legit and what isn't? And the people I'm talking about, 2 individuals that I know, very, very smart and very smart with their money and worth a lot of money and lost a lot of money with that clown. What do you recommend?
Super quick. Due diligence, doing your research, doing your background. Even so, it's even to me amazing to me because I have folks. We're probably thinking of the same names because there's numerous that have obviously been in the news. And my opinion, and many is, if it's a shade of gray, it's a shade of black. So, it's hard for me to even being in the industry is, man, they must be really good to talk people into having them cut checks directly to them. What in the world could they possibly say? That in itself is just amazing to me. But doing due diligence, working with reputable companies, and again, life's an open book with the internet today. You can do your due diligence, but if it sounds to be good to be true, it probably is. Understanding with the disclosure laws and rules today, understanding the fees, avoiding the surprises, and understanding what you have so you can avoid the surprises, even though we're in the industry of certainly being trustworthy and so forth. Understand what type of investments you have. So as things go up and down, how does that relate to you?
Well, and it's tough. If somebody came to you and said, I've got this idea, it entails a hoop that you swirl around on your hip, and they'll sell by the billions. And I think that most of us would have gone, yeah, right. But yet, a guy bilked hundreds of millions of dollars out of people and didn't even have a product. Scary scenario. Right. Let's go to Frank. Frank in Minneapolis. You're on with Larry Kallevig.
Well, hi, Al. Always a good show. I'm glad that you went through surgery and it all went well.
Went fabulous. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that.
Actually, I'm calling about earlier today. Paul Douglas brought up your name on investments, and we didn't realize that your 401k is tied up really secure with the online trading, which is a publicly traded pot stocks that you probably made a fortune on. And you're taking a risk, but I'm glad that you're ahead of the game. That's what they were discussing earlier today. But my discussion was the fact that, don't you think Roth IRAs are the way to go? Why would anyone at any age not take a Roth? Because the way this economy is and the deficit we have, I can't imagine that even if it's only a few years of less taxes, we're all going to pay. I can't believe that people that think that that's a bargain, and down the road when they're 70 and a half, are probably going to pay more than the deduction they got when they were 55.
That's a great question. I completely agree with you. There are some stipulations and hindrances as far as the Roth goes. I completely agree. When it comes to contributions to a Roth, of course, before 50, it's $5,500 a year. Over 50, catch up 65. But then if you make too much, if you're a high-income earner, you can't contribute to a Roth. And if you don't have any income at all in retirement, you can't contribute. We're a big advocate in many situations of Roth conversions, which oftentimes is ways for people to backdoor into the Roth. Roth 401ks, which are new in the last couple of years, strongly encourage, if that's part of your employer-sponsored plan, to take advantage of that. It's only been around a few years. So if you have that, take advantage. If your kids do or loved ones, encourage them. That's new. And then, of course, if it's tax advantageous to contribute, yes. Pay now or pay later, the Roth you'll never have to pay again. So I'm a big advocate. If it works into your overall plan, which I wish most would open up a Roth, because there's a 5-year time period. Starting that clock at any point can get you over that 5-year hump earlier. So I completely agree with that call.
Plus, you can always pull it out in an emergency, at least your asset you put in, not your earnings.
That is correct. 100% accurate.
And Al, I hope your investment in that pot stock works out for your 401k.
I think they were yanking your chain, Frank.
No, I think it's true. Paul probably has access to all the records at CCO, even though he's not been there as long as you. Good luck.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate pot stock. Speaking of pot stock, Larry, I remember when Bitcoin came out. And there was all a hoopla, and I went, what the heck is this Bitcoin nonsense? And I looked into it, and I said, I'm not touching that with anything. And then I read a report about within the last 30 days that if you had put in $1,000 into Bitcoin, what your wealth would be today. And I went, it was staggering. I don't recall the figures, but it was like, whoa, are you kidding me? Would you explain to me how Bitcoin is so huge and what it is?
Boy, that's a true test here at this late of the night. Again,
yeah.
It's just to touch on the Bitcoin thing, and we don't get heavily involved in that. It's alternative currency and all this stuff. But over the holidays, I had a client send me an email about Bitcoin. Now, first of all, make sure you understand speculative investments. Is that where you should be compared to where you're at in life? Does it make sense? How much? It is a speculative. In fact, when he said how much you would have had, when he sent me that email over the holidays, his question was exactly what you just asked. Within 2 days, if you go back, Bitcoin went down, I believe it was $1,000 one day.
In fact, it was right after I read the article on Bitcoin, and I chuckled. But at the same time, if I would have bought Bitcoin when it first came out, I'd still be way ahead.
True. The problem is many people. You go ahead.
Well, once again, it's do you use your gut or do you use statistics to try and determine how you wade through all this stuff? What do you use?
And here's what I say to that, because the average person, again, on our daily grind that we work with our clients, first of all, you have your nest egg retirement money, destined again, and you have your speculative fund money. Now, there's differences. Everybody's different. Are you playing with the fund money or are you playing with the nest egg money? Most people have them commingled, and everybody wants to make good. Everybody wants the good return. Everybody wants to win the lottery. Of course, you got to participate. But at the same time, how much are you willing to lose? If you're willing to, are you willing to lose all of it? Okay, then accept the fact that's what you're going into. The problem is that I can see faces still today from 2001 and 2008 of people that got into high-risk investments, derivatives, and all these other things. They lost it all, and the spouse is still bitter. So it's having an understanding of what you're getting involved in and making sure you have a comfort level and understanding of what it is. That's more important.
And once again, the one thing that I keep going back to this: grow your wealth slowly, and that's why when I saw the Bitcoin, I went, again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But in this particular case, I was wrong. But I couldn't, Larry, I couldn't see a product there. Maybe I was blind to it.
Well, they're speculative investments. I mean, coulda, woulda, shoulda. If you go back in time I remember one of my clients saying he was offered a Fastenal stock back how many years ago, and it would cost this much. So there's a whole bunch of those. If we would have done something then, or whether it be whatever it is, but can't go backwards.
Yeah, 3M. Yeah, there you go. Let's go to Julie. Julie, you're with Larry Kallevig.
Yeah, I just want to get in the weeds a little bit, little detail about that Bitcoin. I know I read the story about the young boy that got $1,000 from his grandparents several years ago and turned it into $1 million. The problem is you can't cash it out for cash. That kid can't get $1 million in cash. And there was somebody that tried to live on Bitcoin in New York City. In all of New York City, they only found 4 restaurants that accepted Bitcoin. So I was just wondering, how do you actually get money out of it rather than just letting it sit and either go up or down? And I'll hang up and listen.
That's a great question. Julie, listen, keep listening. Larry, can you cash in your Bitcoins if people bought those, put in 1,000 and it's now worth $1 million? Can they get their money out of it? Is that true, what Julie said?
Well, I don't know who's going to give it to you. I don't know the answer to I don't know the answer to that question. But I read the same thing. Who's going to give the money for it? So it's not liquid. And what's
how can there be any value? How could there be any value if you can't?
That's a really good question that I need to ask the right person to give me an answer.
Is this being manipulated out of prison by BM?
Very possible. Like other things are, very, very possible. I don't know the answer. I don't know how you get your money out of it.
Larry, we'll take a break. We'll bring you back. We'll wrap this up. Larry Kallevig is our guest. He is a financial professional with Haven Financial Group. We'll tell you how to get the form once again and their website. You're listening to 830 WCCO. We're speaking with Larry Kallevig, who is a financial professional with Haven Financial. And Larry, once again, the website, and you can download a budget form to help you get started. What's the website again?
Yeah, we got a budget worksheet, other tools at havenfinancialgroup.com.
I think one of the things that we've been talking about here tonight is the word patience. And I think that's the most important thing. Go slowly and be very, very patient and let your wealth grow slowly. And that is the way to do it. The pie in the sky kind of scenarios, they can happen, certainly. But most often, you find yourself hurting. Or am I wrong on that?
No, you're very accurate. Be patient, build a routine, start slow, be consistent, be disciplined, hit that gym regularly, burn off the fat, which is that debt. Very important. And at the end of the day, save and max out those contributions the best you can. If you need help, get a financial trainer.
When somebody comes into your office and you sit down for the very first time, give us a run-through of what the conversation is like. What kind of questions are you asking, and what do we need to bring in to be prepared for the first meeting?
First meeting is we're interviewing them, they're interviewing us. It's impromptu. It's a needs analysis. We may not even get there that first meeting. Maybe it's the second meeting, but it's impossible to know where one's going until we figure out where they're at. So we'll talk eventually goals, objectives, expenses, and all the various details. But it's going to take some time to get there. From there, obviously, we can do further needs analysis to see where you're at, where you're going, and are you in the right spot?
Would you say the majority of people are involved in mutual funds versus individual stocks, more diversified in their portfolio?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, you're seeing a big uptick with exchange-traded funds or sector-based investing. Mutual funds are still prominent. We look at the fees attached to those various things. Of course, diversification is important as far as risk. But there's different types of methods of investing madness, if you will. But I see people all over the board. The key is, do they have investments? Because there's many that don't.
What is the key to selecting a financial planner, an advisor like yourself, to help you out?
What do they specialize in? With us, we specialize mostly with 55-year-olds and above, those that are in a 5-year window or less to retirement. They're limited to. What are the credentials? What do they specialize in? What's their fee status? How do they get paid? And at the end of the day, what's their main objective? And what's their past history?
You know, when our sons, who are now 40 and 38, when they were young guys, we were sitting down and we were talking about planning for your future. And I told both of them, very, very important to select a company to work for that offers a good benefit package. That's more important than your salary. Because salaries, they go up and down, but the benefit package is crucial. See what they have in a 401k when you're interviewing with companies. See what they have as far as a pension plan. And both of them ended up working for just fabulous companies, and they're way ahead of us where we were at the same age. And I'm glad that they paid attention to that.
Yeah, very true. What a blessing. You said pension. Less than 10% of Americans have pensions today. If you haven't, you're very blessed. You deserve it, but they've gone by the wayside. But you're exactly right. The benefits package.
Very quickly, Larry. I'm sorry to interrupt. Very quickly, we're out of time. The website. What's the website again?
HavenFinancialGroup.com.
Very good, Larry. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you for your advice. Larry Kallevig with Haven Financial. This is CCO. Financial. This is CCO. Financial. This is CCO. Financial. This is CCO. Financial.